how can you advocate for a player that you have not watched play? That's you watched the highlight, or you watched one cup game that now all of a sudden you go, oh, I know what he can do. No, it doesn't work like that.
I want to talk about Damion Downs first. Okay, 20-year-old striker for FC Cologne. Doing my best.
Yeah, you got
okay.
it.
They're on top of the second Bundesliga right now. They just won 1-0 against Schalke this past weekend. Damion Downs scored. It was a tap-in, but you still got to be there to finish it. Gives them 9 goals in the 2 Bundesliga this season, which leads his team. Again, they're on top of the table. Now, we had one from K-Mag who says Downs almost won a spot on the Olympic team for the U.S. He has 8 goals this year. This was prior to him scoring his 9th. And so Chuck, you called him a late bloomer.
Mm-hmm.
And he's only 20. And
yeah.
so everybody was clamoring for you to give some
explanation,
some context. Yeah, explanation. Yeah. I mean, Agyemang scored 2 goals against B teams. This is what K-Meg said. He thinks that Damion Downs is a better choice and should be higher up the list than Agyemang in your striker list.
Mm-hmm.
Explain yourself.
When I say late bloomer, I'm comparing him to certain guys in our player pool right now. So think about where Josh Sargent was. Think about where Matthew Hoppe was at 18, scoring in the Bundesliga. What did Josh Sargent have when he was 18? He scored 4 goals and 4 assists in 28 appearances, 25 goals, 2 assists in 32 appearances. And remember, though, Werder Bremen was just defending. Remember, we were just they won a playoff game to stay up. They were at the bottom, and he still found a way to have an impact. Matthew Hoppe, when he had 18 years old, he had 6 goals. He went on that crazy run with 22 appearances with Schalke. What I'm saying is we had guys who were young, who were scoring goals, and they were much younger than Damion Downs in top divisions. Now, this is the second division. They dropped down. I think he's raw. Does he have a lot of potential? Absolutely. Just is I look at some of the goals he scored in Bundesliga too. Good runs out of the pocket in midfield, takes a good first touch, can bang it with his right and left. He gets in good spots for headers. He's raw. And think about who he got beat out for in the Olympic roster, right? Just to make the team. Give me who was the starting 9?
Who was the starting 9?
Duncan Maguire.
Oh, Duncan Maguire. That's right.
He fell to the bench, but essentially that's kind of like the level we're talking about here. So you could say the Bundesliga too. Yeah. What is that level? But I look at Daryl Dike when he went into the championship with Barnsley. He had 9 goals in just 13 starts to kick off. Mm-hmm. Does that mean he's ready for the U.S. Men's National Team? No. I think that Damion Downs, given his player profile and how young he is, could he absolutely be ready? Yes. I still think Patrick Agyemang is raw, right? And he got his opportunity and did well against, I don't know how you would rate the level of opponent in January camp. But I think that we have guys with a lot of potential. They're raw. And I would love to see them, continue to develop, continue to get playing time. And then when they get their move eventually, right, Jimmy?
Right.
Now we can say, okay, you're producing, you're having consistent performances, you're producing in a top league somewhere in Europe, right? A top 5, right. Ideally in a top 5 league. So at the moment, who's ahead between Damion Downs and Patrick Agyemang? I'd say Patrick Agyemang because he's already done it. And you look at Pochettino, he's had his rosters, he's had his players that have come by him. Once you've already been able to show him what you can do, I think you probably have a leg up on Damion Downs.
Okay, so I love your insight as our resident number 9. When we look at players, and I'll speak generally as a coach, right? So you look at his physical profile. Okay, that's obviously your eye test. Yeah, your eye test, right? So this kid's 6'4". He's long. He's fast. Okay. He's ticking a lot of boxes in the physical department. All right. Technically, how is he technically? Can he seems to be good in 1v1 situations. He likes the ball at his feet. His hold up play seems pretty good, Chuck, right? As you mentioned, his timing in the air, all that type of stuff. So technically, okay, good. Solid, no problem. Tactically, okay. When he holds up the ball, does he make the right pass out of that situation when he's holding it up? Now, again, this isn't all on him because some of it's predicated on the options, his supporting options. How is he being supported? How do they want to play, right? So that's where the coaching style and the style of play comes into it, because we don't always know that type of insight that they're getting, the direction. But more often than not, Chuck, we've been around enough, we've seen enough games and played in enough games that we know what the right decision is in most situations. Is he executing those decisions? Also, when they press, how coordinated is he in the press? How connected is he to everybody else, right? So all these like little details within the tactical understanding of the game. Where I would say, and you mentioned raw, I think raw is a good word, where I think there's a somewhat of a vulnerability or deficiency in his game is his consistency in decision-making. Should he have dribbled when he actually passed, right? Or did he pass when he should have dribbled? Should he have gone to the end line and got across? Should, all these little things where not only are you unpredictable for the other team, but predictable for your teammates. And so those are the areas where I think he's got room to improve. And this is normal for younger players. This isn't like, I don't like Damion Downs. This is not specific to him. This is a pretty normal growth curve for younger players. But that's where I think if you're really going to consider him for the national team, those decisions have to be very clean and very quick and identified very quickly to really start to consider him in that way. I think Agyemang, I understand where you're coming from, because Agyemang has now been around Pochettino and had the benefit of that January camp, which is where we saw the value, right? You just get to be the coaching staff, and that itself, but it makes a difference.
Jimmy, I would say there's a lot of people in the chat. Not everyone. There are a few that are. Damion does, and there's a lot of people that are just guilty of seeing the stats. They look at, oh, Damion Downs scored this week in Bundesliga 2. He deserves a call-up. Oh, he's scoring goals and they're top of the Bundesliga 2, so he deserves a call-up. But my question is, have you watched him play? Have you watched 90 minutes of him? Have you watched one game? Have you watched two? And a lot of them, 99.9% will say, no, I haven't watched them play. And so how can you advocate for a player that you have not watched play? You watched the highlight, or you watched one cup game that now all of a sudden you go, oh, I know what he can do. No, it doesn't work like that. It's for the national team. We do not make call-ups over one match. If you watched one cup game, that doesn't mean he should get called in. It's how they move. How do they fit in with this team? What have we seen from them before? Do you think someone who's been in the player pool, and I don't want to say that everyone who's been in the player pool has been judged correctly, but this is a player who's been, as of late, judged with this Olympic team. Yeah. And he did not make the team.
Right.
What does that tell you?
So what I'll say is that what the stats do is if he's scoring goals like he has been, that pops up onto your radar. And then when he hits your radar, whether you're fans of the game or fans of players of the national team like us, it's probably the same thing for the coaching staff. They have to monitor a ton of players. And you're like, okay, cool. This kid's scoring. He's scoring consistently. Now let's go take a look at the 90 minutes. Okay, great. We saw 90 minutes. Now let's see how he performs again. Okay, cool. If we really want to make sure this is the guy and he's gonna tick a few boxes for us, we got to see another game. And you need to get a big sample size. I'd say
100%.
3 games minimum, in my humble opinion, to really have a good idea, because you need to see his reactions. If things don't go well, how is he performing? Is he still chasing the ball? Is he putting his head down? Is he staying connected with his teammates? Like, all these little things have to be factored in as to whether you think this player is going to be good for the group. And not only that, when he comes into the national team, and I'm using Damion Downs as an example, because he's on the fringes, if he comes in, he's not going to start, right? He's not going to be a guy we trust. He's just coming in to maybe help us.
And so mind you, for March,
that's a different mentality.
For March, you only have 23 roster spots, and 3 of those are taken up by goalies, right?
Right.
So,
right.
So for Nations League, people are like, hey, and ultimately, Jimmy, I think he has something to him. He has a high ceiling, but he's raw. I also want to point out Jordan Pefok. Remember how people were going berserk for Jordan Pefok before they actually watched him play, and then he came into play, and people went, oh, whoa, okay. Right. He's maybe not as quick as I thought. He had 17 goals and 7 assists in that one season with the young boys, right? Before he came. He had 22 goals and 4 assists in 21-22. And so people are like, oh, and then you watch them play and you go, oh, probably not the right fit, right? In terms of our style, how we played. And, I think there are things to that of strikers who maybe perform really well. And Chris Wondolowski is another great example of someone who can score goals for fun in MLS, but maybe that doesn't transition to the national team level, right? Not only U.S. men's national team, but playing internationally against top competition.
I know. You're sad. We've come to the end of the video. But if you want more average to good content from your favorite former U.S. men's national team players, this is the channel to make it happen. Go look at our other videos. Go look at our playlists. And if you want more of the content, the best way to make that happen is to hit like, hit subscribe, and then turn on all of your notifications so that you do not miss anything that we drop or when we go live or whatever it may be. We appreciate you. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.